Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. This is Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're at episode number 19.
19.
19.
Wait, this is the part where you're supposed to say, I can't believe we're at episode number 19.
I'm not doing it this time. I learned my lesson. You called me out last time.
Oh, good. Okay, so we broke that habit.
But I can't believe we're going to be at almost number 20. I still had to do it.
But you missed that segue there. You see how I said you broke that habit, and this episode is about habits.
Oh, there you go.
See?
Boom. All right, now, this episode, we always have to update, and then we have a topic. And this topic, there's books out there, habits of a millionaire, the habits of a...
7 habits of a highly successful people.
Yeah, highly effective people or something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of... So I don't want to call it habits of a good reseller or a great reseller. I'm just going to put habits of a reseller.
Habits of a reseller.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Because, there's a lot to learn, right? I still have a lot to learn. You have a lot to learn. And some of these habits are habits that we see other people that I aspire to, right? Because for me, it's more than just, hey, if I do these things, I'm going to get from point A to point B. It's more of hey, if I do these things, things will slowly start changing, and it's going to be a part of who I am as a reseller. So I thought I would, talk about that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So honestly, to start this episode, I really have no idea what your agenda is, what you'd like to talk about. So are we thinking habits as far as, eating your Wheaties and going for a morning run to keep your physical fitness going so that you got the energy to go through the day?
Yeah, fitness didn't go into this one.
Oh.
Well,
that's a good one too,
though. No, it is a really good one.
Yeah.
And I'm the last person to talk about fitness. So there you go. I still got my diet due. You're watching on YouTube.
Hey. Diet do. It's fitness.
I love Diet Mountain Dew. There's no... what I said?
Caffeine is a very good substance.
Yeah, I had an Insta story that, this is what I drink all the time. And people were telling me it's poison and, they were kind. But basically, I'm going to die if I keep drinking that.
Yeah, one of our friends, one of my coworkers, he's actually was on one of our Insta stories not too long ago. He drinks Diet Coke all the time. And he's got this saying, so I'm attributing it to you there. I don't know if you want me to use your name. I'll shut you out next time.
Let's
if you're
keep
okay
him incognito.
Use your name. But when people would say things like, "Oh, that's bad for you," his response is always, "Yeah, I don't drink it for my health."
Nice.
It's pretty clever.
Yeah, I always say,
I don't do this for my health.
I don't have any vices. At least let me keep this one. So but I do have other vices probably.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all right, let's move on. Okay, so I thought we would do a little bit of kind of go down your world of English and do how do you say alliteration?
Ooh, I love alliteration.
Right. So we're gonna say the 3 habits of a reseller are patience, perseverance, and perspective.
Patience, perseverance,
Does that work?
Is patience even a habit? Are any of those habits? Perseverance, maybe I could kind of see, but when I think habit, I think okay, actual action item.
All right, let's do practices of a reseller. Does that work?
I think habits of a reseller is fine, but we're going to have to break down each of these 3 alliterated terms and figure out how we can make them habits.
Okay. All right, let's talk about patience.
Patience.
Why do you think patience is a big deal as a reseller?
Oof. Okay, here's a great example. I bought, when I very first started, an item. It was a pasta maker. I bought 2 of them, and one of them sold, but it took a little while, and I spent a lot of time cleaning them up. And over 5 months later, and I know that's not very long for some people, but finally the second one sold. And I tell you, when I've organized my garage 3 times, and almost every time I organize it, I look at this thing and it's taking up a lot of space, and I'm like, I just need to get rid of it. I paid $5 for it. It's $5 wasted, whatever. I'll donate it to a thrift store, but it's taking up space. I should just get rid of it. And it sold for what I was asking for, and I had a great ROI. But if I wouldn't have been patient, I'd have lost out on that.
Interesting. Now, I did notice, didn't you earlier on, I would always tell you, take an offer if it gets close, and you would, decline them, right?
Oh, yeah.
But now you're more willing to, work with people?
Partially because I've got a lot more inventory. So that's part of the reason I'm willing to haggle with people a little, or, let them get a little bit there, as long as I still am making profit. But yeah, I mean, when you're first starting out and, you've got 10 items, you want to make as much ROI as possible so you can get some capital. And we talked about the the short and fast of the nickel and the dime, but,
But I think patience plays a huge part, like you said,
absolutely.
right? If you want to get those prices, you have to be patient.
So here would be a habit I would say that I need to break because there's good habits and bad habits.
Okay. Now,
One
this is an extensive list today, by the way. We're just trying to break down a few of them.
Yeah.
We might have a part two.
Ooh, that would be great. I'll be more prepared for the second one. All
Okay.
right. So, um, so with patience, we've talked several times. We even last episode I mentioned, and I kind of accused Orlando of maybe being one of the watchers on a lot of my items
You accused me of a lot of things last podcast. Let's be real.
and relevant. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So, um, yeah. So there's been times where I'm looking at how many views items have, and it's like every day I'm going through my listings, and as I get more and more listings, I don't have time to look at them all. But there's times where I'm hawking items where it's like, did it get any views today? Has watchers gone up? And it can create a sense of anxiety because I'm not being confident in the fact that I've done the research. I know it's valuable. Let's just play the long game.
But think about the time you're wasting doing
That's
that
true.
too.
Yep, I could be researching other things.
I remember back in the day, and there's nothing wrong if you're, stuck on watching watchers, right? Because I did it too. But you're losing time,
Mm.
right? You could be more effective doing something else. So
Yeah, sharing on Poshmark.
doing that, yeah, yeah. Or listing on eBay or sourcing or whatever it is, right? There's other things, and so you gotta be patient. Like the if you found an item, you did the research, right? And you know that it's gonna meet a certain price point, unless it's a fluke, like be patient, right? Don't take that fast nickel unless it's around Q4 and the fast nickel works better for you because you need capital, but be patient, right? I see a lot of people on eBay that sell things for like 50% less, right? And maybe it's because they have a lot of inventory, but sometimes I think people just get impatient.
Mm. What are some ways, Orlando, that you would say that you have been able to increase your patience? Because I mean that when you think of something like patience, and we think of like the habits to build that, like there are people who are naturally more patient than others based off things they've gone through. But like for our listeners out there, like what could you suggest to them to do to increase their patience?
I would say build that pipeline. We've said it before. And a lot of people are gonna go, "Oh, here we go again." But it's kind of like today, I was on Instagram with someone and somebody said, "Yeah, I listed 3 items and none of them sold.
Mm,
eBay's a sham," right? I go, "Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. You listed 3 items."
right.
Like, there first of all, you have to be uber patient to hope that
Mm,
those 3 items are gonna sell, right? It could be a long time because we know that eBay likes constant activity,
hmm
right? Whatever the Cassini or the algorithm likes seeing that you're constantly listing. You only have 3 items, right? And we always give this analogy. If you walked into a store and there's only 3 items and you were looking for something that wasn't one of those 3 items, you're not gonna buy that item,
mm,
right? So I would say is you need to be willing to work without instant results. You need to be willing to work for a long time, right? Summer slowdown was a time where patience really needed to play a part,
mm.
especially if you're new, right? Unless you're like Mike and you caught summer heat, because Mike had a ton of sales in the summer, which was, I think eBay was trying to hook Mike, but that's my conspiracy.
Maybe, but I sell weird things.
Or maybe Mike just has that eye.
I think that's what I mean. Like you saw
That's true.
you saw my cell with the cow butter dish, right?
Yeah, I saw that. What was that?
Yeah, right. I got 2 of them. I was at a garage sale, paid $5. I
For both?
$5 each.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I looked at the bottom. It's just an interesting looking item. It's like a butter dish that was a cow that was like painted really weird. And I looked up the brand and I saw the exact same cow one, and they've sold for relatively high. So I'm like, I'm picking these up, right? So I look at weird things, and I think that's what helped me in the beginning. And I've moved away from that because you don't find those unique items all the time. A lot of times it's the constant bolos we talk about. So I've had to learn that. But that's I'm gonna attribute my summer heat to my ability and not to
Oh,
eBay,
okay.
but
All
it
right.
was probably eBay.
But it's patience, right? Like you said, like now you're willing to haggle with people because now you have more items,
Mm,
right? It took patience, right?
yep.
I mean, you were working, you're building, and you didn't get instant results. And it's kind of like Q4 right now. Like I'm really impatient right now. Like I really want to start making a lot of money, And I could go and I could put a repricer and I could put, undercut everybody
Mm,
by, a cent or two, and I could have a ton of sales, but I'm gonna lose out on a lot of money
yep.
because of my impatience, right? So you gotta be patient, right? And part of that is, when you're out on garage sales and at thrift stores, like, you gotta be patient and don't pick up junk.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, no, that's absolutely true. Sometimes you go to 3 or 4 garage sales and you don't find anything, and there starts to be a sense of urgency because there's that golden hour, right, of time when before all of the other resellers get there and buy all the good stuff, that you're kind of like, I don't wanna go home with nothing, so I'm gonna buy something, even if that something isn't a good something.
And that's the thing, because I've gotten impatient, right? I mean, you go into a store and you're always trying to find that thing that you'll pay for $5 and you'll sell for 100, right?
Mhm.
And then, after going to 3 or 4 stores, things that you'd make maybe $15 after buying for 5 start looking a little better,
Yep.
right? Do you get
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of you out there have experienced that where you're like, "I might as well just get something, right? Make this day productive, make this morning productive."
And there's actually I would argue, and we've talked about that before, you should not have blinders on. You shouldn't just be looking for one thing. You should be willing to scan other things and find other stuff and not be so focused, so narrowly focused that you're missing
Are
the other things, right? Like you don't see the forest for the trees for the forest or whatever, you know.
you trying to do a quote of the
That's
week
not the
here?
quote of the week. I'll save that one.
Or are you gonna save it?
As I'm thinking about the peas, I thought of a good quote that would work for one of those
Oh,
peas.
wow, okay. So, you gotta be patient. That also means, like, when you're at garage sales, be willing to walk away from a bad buy,
Mm.
right? Don't have you had to walk away from a bad buy before?
Yeah, in fact, when we went on our very first ride along, where you were teaching me about garage sales, I remember there was something you said to me that kinda gave me the courage to walk away from bad buys. Um, we saw, I think it was a VCR, it was in the box, they didn't have the remote for it, and we looked at it, and then we went to the car, and you mentioned
Oh,
like,
I remember
"Oh,
this.
it'd be worth getting, you know, if it's a good price," and I went back out and I asked him, and the guy wouldn't budge, like, he was asking for too much, and I came back, and Orlando, you were like, "I'm proud of you for not buying it." Right?
I
Because like, I
remember that.
wanted it because I was like, "I can make, like, you know, $15 off of this VCR," and the fact that I wasn't willing to make that purchase, which would've taken a lot of time to ship and box and for such a small ROI, and the fact that you encouraged me of, like, it was good for you to walk away from that. Like, even though that was something I was looking for, it wasn't in my price range, and I didn't budge.
I agree, and, I've had bad buys. So, give you an example, I got really impatient because there was this time where, like, I remember HP, toner and so on was unrestricted on Amazon.
Mm.
And actually, one of my first few sales on Amazon, I went to the Salvation Army, that one that we talk about that's really messed up,
Yep.
okay? And I actually bought like 10 toner cartridges
Mm.
for like $15 a piece, and I flipped them off for $100 each.
Wow.
And I was like, "This is awesome," right? I was all pumped. And I remember, I was at this garage and sorry, to rewind, I did my research when I found those cartridges because all of the dates, like, weren't expired,
Mm.
right? You can't send expired items to Amazon. Right? You can sell on eBay, you just can't send it to Amazon. And I remember from that point forward, anytime I saw a toner, I was just impatient. Like, I had to have it. Like, I didn't research, I would just buy out, and eventually it cost me.
Mm.
Because I did. I went to a garage sale and I thought I could sell these toners for 100 a piece, and I paid, I think, 30 each. I want to say I bought 10 of them,
Ooh.
right? And I was impatient because I was worried that if I didn't pick them up at that point in time, like, somebody else was gonna snag them.
Mm.
So I didn't even look at dates. And what ended up happening was half of them were expired, right? So there's $150 that I lost, and I put them on eBay, and they've been on eBay for a year,
Oof.
right? And
Yeah.
my impatience ended up costing me.
And I do that all the time with shoes. I've had a lot of success selling shoes, but there's a lot of times where I'm at garage sales or I'm at a thrift store and I'm wanting to move quickly, and I look at shoes and they're in a decent price range and they look okay, and I
And
put
don't
them
get
in the
us
cart.
wrong, moving quickly is a good
Yeah, you
thing.
should move quickly. But then there's times I get home and then I go to take the pictures and I realize there's a flaw that's much bigger, and possibly too big to list that I didn't recognize in the store. I mean, I bought one boot that it looked great in the store. I didn't spend the time. I was impatient. I got home, and then like part of the front was like actually separating, and like the sole was coming off. I should have seen it. And
Yeah.
in fact, I remember after I got home and looked at it, like, oh, I actually saw these boots last week when I was at that thrift store, and I didn't pick them up because it had the sole was coming off. And so I was impatient, and it was an item I'd already seen, I already knew it was flawed, and I didn't take the time to inspect it.
So in the end, patience, right, is huge. And give you on the positive side of it, right? Because sometimes like waiting it out, right, is one of the best ways to end up, making those big sales, right? And so I've had moments where, I'll talk about, I think I mentioned this train. So there's this, maybe, did I mention ever a holiday train? I did, like that sold to
Yep,
Spain.
yep.
So I'll bring it up again, but I like this story because I have another train exactly the same.
Mm,
And I remember, and those of you that haven't listened, I think it's like I want to say it's episode 5 or global shipping one, the one that no one, well, some people have listened to, but if you haven't, go back. But I remember people kept lowballing, right? And so I had it up for, I think, $1,000 and I was willing to take 750, but I kept, I paid only $80 and then I had to buy extra tracks from eBay. So it was like $100 I had into it. But I remember people kept offering me 200 and 300 and I knew it was worth money.
mm,
Right, and and it took a long time. I mean, it took a year,
mm,
but after a year, somebody offered me, I forget what it was. It was over $500, right? And it was worth me waiting,
right. Oh,
right? I doubled
absolutely.
my money. Or let me give you a better example. So, I'll never forget this because it's the only time I've ever picked up this brand. You ever heard of Willis& and Geiger?
I have not.
So, Willis& and Geiger is a brand, this is Bolo, by the way. It's not even a Bolo episode, but you because chance of you finding Willis& and Geiger are, like, slim to none these days.
Mm,
But Willis& and Geiger is a brand that had, like, safari jackets or, like, like those khaki kinda deals, those jackets, you know what I'm talking about? Like, outdoors kinda
yes,
clothes,
yes, yep.
okay? It's kinda like a Filson, right? But it's not Filson. So, I remember I was trying to rush out of a store at a Goodwill, like, I was trying to get out of there, and I was getting really impatient in line, like, "Why are these people taking so long?" And I turn, I see this jacket, and I look it up and the jacket's going for like 100. People have sold it for 100, and it's a Willis and Geiger. And I'm like, this was actually like within my first year of reselling. So I pick it up and I'm like, I know there's something more to this. I can't just take that easy 100. And I did my research and I was patient. Like I could have flipped it right away. Cause when you're first reselling, like you want those quick sales.
Right.
Right. And we suggest that you do that like on lower price items because you want to build your capital. And what ended up happening was like I took the time to do the research. I was patient about it. I made sure I had good pictures and listed it high. I listed it at $300. And other people were selling it for 100. And actually the patience paid off because it didn't even take more than 2 months. I sold that jacket for $300. Right? So you gotta be patient. Like the right buyer has to be there. Now, if it's an item that like, it's an iPad or an iPhone, like patience isn't worth it to you, right? Because it's not unique. It's not a discontinued brand. But if you have an item that has value, like patience will pay off.
So you're saying practicing patience increases potential profit?
There you go. There you go. That's a good way to look at it. There you go. Okay. All right, we got to move on, right? Let's go. Let's talk about perseverance.
Ooh, perseverance. Let me do the quote of the week right here
Oh, wow. Okay.
before we even get into
All
it.
right, go for it.
Perseverance. So I think this quote, I thought of this as when you said perseverance when I heard the P's. So there's this quote, not sure. You know what? Honestly, it's probably been said 100 different times, 100 different ways by 100 different people, so I can't attribute it to anybody, but essentially it's this: complacency is the enemy of success, or complacency is the enemy of, you know, fill in the blank, but it's usually something related to
Yeah.
success, and I think that that's kind of what happens when you don't have perseverance, and I know perseverance isn't always, like, seen as that way, but, like, you can get to a place where you feel like you've persevered through the hard part, and then now you've made it. And so you don't put in the effort, you don't work as hard as you've been working, and you kinda take it easy, and when you become complacent, you end up going backwards, I feel like, and
Mhm.
so, um, yeah, so perseverance isn't just perseverance during the hard time, I feel like, but it's also continually moving forward even when you've made it.
I agree. And that's the thing with reselling. Like it's that extra 1%
Mm,
that will keep you moving.
yep.
Right. I mean, how, you've had some success, right, in this short time.
I feel like it, yeah.
Okay. Give me a story about perseverance. Like a time that you, and I'm putting you on the spot, a time that like you were exhausted, you were tired, but you kept hustling through.
Um, so I'm the kind of person that feels like I need time off, like I work hard enough that I deserve breaks,
Yeah.
and that comes out, you mentioned vices and your only vice is Diet Mountain Dew at this point, um,
Or at
but
least the one that people know about.
so for me, I would say kind of laziness, or procrastination, I'll throw procrastination in with perseverance is the
Okay.
keep that alliteration going, um, I I tend to want to just relax and watch TV and do things like that, and that's my way of unwinding. And honestly, reselling has been very successful, but it's been a lot of work. And being a full time teacher and being a videographer and being a new parent and doing all of these things that I've got on my plate, um, there's times where I just feel like I've worked hard enough this week. I deserve a day to just sit and watch TV, or to go to bed earlier, or fill in the blank, right? Just something other than work, and yeah, there's times where luckily my wife is one of my biggest motivators and encouragers, and there's times where, it's her giving me the encouragement that says, "No, we're not watching TV. We gotta go out and post. We gotta go out and take pictures. We gotta go, do something. We have to keep moving forward." And I'd say that this has been over the years, I've grown out of a lot of my laziness and procrastination, and reselling, I think, has been the thing that's tipped me over the edge into being one of the most productive, hardworking people, that I can be because I'm constantly working and going through times where I'm running off of very little sleep. I'm training for a half marathon. I'm doing videography. I'm teaching. I'm reselling. All of these things. We've got the podcast, and it does take perseverance. It does take a certain amount of this is hard. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I got to keep plowing through this. I'm trying to use as many P's as I can. I don't know if
Oh
you've
my
noticed
goodness.
that. I love the alliteration.
Thank you, English teacher.
You're welcome. What
So,
about you? What is about a time you've had to use perseverance?
I distinctly remember last year, and this is, I always say that I never planned on going full time. It wasn't like something that I had mapped out that like, hey, in 5 years, I'm gonna go full time. It just was something. Did I say last year? I want to say 2 years ago. I'll never forget. I don't know what it was, but I remember it was like 10 o'clock in the evening, and I was sitting there, and I've changed a lot. In my early 20s, I remember I would sit and watch like marathons of Law and Order.
Mm,
I don't know why. Like I think of all that lost time.
yep.
Right, hours of TV. I would just, and I still do, like, I still watch TV, like, luckily 24 isn't making another round because
Yeah.
I would
Jack
binge watch
Bauer,
that,
man.
all day long, but what ended up happening was I remember sitting there and going, "I can choose to sit here and watch a show, or I can work my tail off from 10 to midnight for the next 2 years
Mm,
to completely change my life."
mm,
And I remember it was, like, right before I was gonna go watch a Bonafide Hustler video and to kinda motivate me because I like his watching his ride-alongs and so on, and I remember I had this point in time where, like, I'm gonna work till midnight every night,
mm.
and I did that for the last 2 years. Like, 10 o'clock
And there's
hit.
probably a lot of times when you didn't want to.
Oh, I trust me, there are, especially when it comes to packing FBA shipments, that's one of the things I do not I'm just not a fan.
Mm,
It's a lot of prep, and I know I can hire someone and so on, but I think I needed it because here's another thing, here's about perseverance. I would say it's you gotta be willing to understand that, and this goes along with patience. that whatever work you're putting in, you may not see for a while.
Mm,
It's gonna take a while, so you gotta keep persevering, right? Now, on a practical standpoint, right, let's get practical here, right? I can get relief, and I feel like we're, like, philosophical here, but,
Being
uh
philosophically practical
oh my
in
goodness,
our
okay.
perseverance
There you
and
go, alright. Well, there's a part of me that goes, the practical part is, like, I always tell people this, when you're out garage selling, like, you gotta keep grinding.
mm,
Right? Because I have had garage sales that I make majors. My first major FBA score was at 9:30 in the morning.
mm,
I'll never forget it. I went to a ton of garage sales. I didn't find anything. And I show up at this estate. And for whatever reason, people just didn't go through their items.
mm,
And she had a bunch of sealed electronics. She had not translate, like learn how to speak different languages, like sealed things,
mm.
which at that time, some of these items were going for like $200. Okay. She had Nikon stuff that was sealed. She had, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And had I given up, had I at 9 something said, I'm done, I'm gonna go home, I would have missed out. I probably made, I think, over $3,000 on that haul.
Wow,
That was one of my first FBA hauls.
wow.
Right? So I keep talking about that. Like you gotta keep persevering, or you can replace that with hustling. You gotta keep hustling at garage sales, thrift stores. Like I always tell people, like, don't go home until you find that score.
Mm,
Doesn't have to be a mega score, but you just keep hunting, right? Because it's there, right? The opportunities will find you. You just got to get out there. Because I get people all the time say, Orlando, you're so lucky here. Like, no, it had nothing to do with luck.
mm.
I persevered. I just kept going and going and going. And eventually I landed on a deal.
Yeah, and honestly, there's times where, I'm waking up 4 in the morning. I mean, that's the time I wake up every day, so it's not
You're a good man.
well, it's just I have to be I would sleep in till noon if I could naturally, and I've gotten to the place now where I do wake up at 4 every day, um, but for a while, it was 4 during the weekdays, and then the weekends was sleep in. Well, there's times where, you know, Saturday morning, I gotta get to those garage sales, and so I'm waking up, and yeah, there's times when I'd love to be sleeping in, but yeah, when you're starting your day that early, and so you're in the car and you're out driving around 5 o'clock to get to wherever you need to be there at the 6 o'clock garage sale that they're setting up at early, and so you're working from that early in the morning until, maybe noon, because afterwards you're going to some thrift stores and you've already put in a full day's worth of work, and then you go home and it's like, "Well, now I've got a car full of stuff that I don't wanna sit in death piles. Now I gotta start taking pictures, now I gotta start," and your whole day is consumed by that, and there's times where it's just yeah, you can feel like, "This is so much work, is it worth it?" Um, but then as you see your pipeline getting bigger, and as you see your sales coming in, and as you see your standard of living change, you say, "Okay, it was worth that. It was worth those hours that I spent then because of the way I get to live now."
And that's the thing. You're not always going at 1,000%,
Right.
right? I mean, I'm at a place where I don't have to go at 1,000% all the time, right? And I'll be okay. But I'm choosing to go 1,000%, especially with this Q4, because I want to level up things. I want to set myself up for next year where I'm not worrying about being paycheck to paycheck. I'm now going, okay, what else can I build? Right? You talked about in our show with the Sin City Hustlers about
Mm,
empire,
yep.
right? And legacy, right? That we want to build a legacy. So that kind of leads into our next point, right? Perspective,
Mm,
right? You got to have the right perspective if you want to be in this. And even if you want to just be a hobby person on the side, you got to have a perspective,
mm,
right? And one of the things I would say is you got to have the perspective that this is a long-term game, right? That it's not, something that you just do for 2, 3 hours a week and just put aside. Like this will take time. And especially if you want to go full time, like you gotta have the end goal in mind.
yeah, and honestly, like, we've talked about that a lot, and I feel there's times when inside I worry, like, are we gonna lose listeners? Because I've heard a few people that I've mentioned to, like, "Oh, I wanna get into reselling." So I tell them about the podcast, and they start listening, and then after a few episodes, they say, like, "Man, this is actually a lot more work than I thought it was. Probably not gonna do it." And so, like, there's that fear of, like, should we make this seem easier than it is? But our slogan is, right, like, to be real.
Yeah.
And so, we don't wanna scare anybody off, but we wanna actually encourage that if you go at it with the right mindset, like, we all know, and it's a lot of times it's cliches that we have, and in fact, there's, a quote another quote that says, um, "You don't really usually need to learn new things, you just have to put into practice the things you know." Right? And
I get
so
it.
one of those things is there's nothing in life that's really worth having unless it you have to work hard for it. Like, that's a cliche that everybody says, and it kind of, we know that deep down, but most of us don't live that way, right? Like, most of us wanna take the easy route because it's the easy route. And, it is much easier to sit and watch TV or to do other things, but when you have the right perspective and you've got your mindset on, "This is gonna take work, a lot of work, but it pays off and it's gonna be worth it." I mean, nobody would go to college if they didn't think it was worth it. Nobody would, um, learn how to do anything, right? Like, anything that's worth learning, whether it's playing an instrument,
I
whether
think there's
it's
another quote coming on.
no, there's no more
Are you
quotes.
sure?
Well,
It
maybe.
kinda seems like you're going down that road.
No quotes, I
Okay,
promise.
alright, just checking. No, but I agree with you, like, and I feel like this is one of our more serious episodes, and, I think there's a time to be serious, right? Because I know a lot of you are listening, and maybe some of you are at that point where you're just like, Orlando and Mike, like, I tried, like, started listening to you guys back in June, and, man, I'm just not getting the results I want.
Mm,
Right? And so you got to think about, okay, why is that? Is it one, because you were expecting quick results
mm,
and you were hoping to have that new car or being able to pay your rent right away? Or, what is it? Is it that you're missing that long term perspective, that this is a long game, that to build a pipeline is going to take time?
yep,
Remember, it took 5 years for me to get to a place where I can say, hey, I can do this full time. And even now that I'm full time, to continue being full time, it's going to take more perseverance for me,
mm.
right? Because and here's the part of it. And Gary Vee talks about this a lot of things, but I love this the quote. I got a quote.
Huh. Whatever, I don't wanna hear it.
Wait, no,
Quotes.
you gotta. Oh my goodness. Okay, he talks about whatever you're doing, you gotta love the process,
Mm,
and that's the thing here. Like, if you're going into this and thinking, "Hey, I'm just gonna make that quick buck," you might. There are some people that end up landing, they go private label or they go wholesale and they find that item. But that's rare, like
mm,
ultra rare, right? There's some YouTubers out there that like they hit it big time and they're helping other people hit it big time, but there's a lot of people that are falling off too,
yep,
right? Because you got to think long term, right? And so you got to decide like it's along with that patience and that perseverance, am I willing to continue doing this?
mm,
Right. And don't think about it, like, oh, what am I gonna be doing 6 months from now? Think about what am I gonna be doing this week? What
mm.
am I gonna be doing today?
Yeah, I think you have to always have 2 plans, right? You have to have the immediate plan, and you have to have the future plan, because if you're not planning, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Had to throw another quote there.
I think we're just doing filler quotes.
Yeah, so but part of perspective, I think, is you need the long-term plan, because if you don't have a goal, if you're not aiming for something, you're never gonna hit it. So you have to have that, I wanna be full-time, or I want to buy a new car, or I want to.
And do that the way you want to do it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and plan it. Plan the way, like, but you need, like Rolando said, you need to have the short-term goal of, "What's the little tiny incremental step I can take today that's gonna move me towards that?" And you don't always have to think, I mean, that's the same thing with, like, dieting or quitting a bad habit. A lot of times people think like, "Oh, I can never do this again ever." Well, don't think about ever, just think about today. Like, what's the best choice you can make in this moment?
And in that perspective, make it something tangible,
Yep.
right? Don't just say, I'm gonna level up my standard of living. Well, what does that look like to you? Does that look like, hey, I'm gonna hustle this whole Q4 that in January I can buy a new car?
Mm,
Right? I mean, that's one of my goals. My goal is I love my resale mobile. Have you
mm.
seen my resale mobile lately?
Yeah,
I got like tape holding up parts.
yeah.
I got things broken here. I got scratches here. I don't care. It does what it does. But one of my long term goals is that I'm gonna hustle like crazy so I can pay cash for a car
Mm.
and I'm good and I don't have to make patience on it. So when you see me in my Lambo, I'm joking. But when you see me in my nice Honda Pilot with leather seats, fully decked out, you'll know that, hey, Orlando reached its goal, right? Make it tangible, right? And if you're just starting new reselling, you got to have the perspective. Like for me, and you talked about this too, like I want to take my kids to Disney,
Yep.
right? So I got to think, I'm reselling not just to be able to buy these shoes or buy this. I'm thinking of this long-term perspective goal. Like I want to take my family on a vacation to Disneyland,
Mm,
or I want to be able to buy my wife this nice gift, or I want to, whatever it is, make it tangible.
yep. Can I, since this has been kind of a serious episode, can I throw in
Is it
another
too
P,
serious? Yeah, go for it.
another habit, another practice for resellers? Playful. Make it a little playful because honestly, it's fun. You know,
Like play Twister?
no, no,
Oh,
bear
yeah.
bear with me on this. So we've talked a lot about the work, and like I said, I don't want to scare people away, but think about it. Like when you go to garage sales and you meet people and you're finding random weird stuff in thrift stores, it's fun. And we think of all the stories that we talk about as we sit here and talk to each
Well,
other.
that's why I love the podcast,
Yeah,
because it is fun.
it's a ton of fun, and
But
we
that's
know.
perspective.
And exactly, you've gotta have the right perspective on it, that it's work, but honestly, it's you're your own boss when you're doing this, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you get to meet interesting people, like, sometimes when you're at garage sales, some of the people you meet, you're like, "Whoa," right? And and sometimes they're just awesome, and you meet cool people, and you get to do things you didn't think you would do before, and you get to I've bought items that, I've never thought, like, I would own, and it's sitting because if you think about it, like, currently, I own a bunch of random stuff that's in my garage, like,
Mhm.
it's kind of fun and interesting, and you get to talk about it, and as many fun stories as we have on reselling, we know you guys have just as many, so, yeah, have the right perspective and be a little playful with it too.
No, I agree. I mean, that's one of the fun things. I think about all the things I've sold from some of the cool Harley shirts that had these funny designs, every once in a while you're like, people got away with wearing that kind of stuff in the 80s. You know what I mean?
And then they still buy it today.
Yeah, they still might day, right? Or you think about, I get really nostalgic,
Mm,
right? 80s and 90s. Like I look and now I love it that the 90s is coming back,
mm,
right? Or has been back.
yep,
Right. So now when I'm reselling, like it's fun because I have this perspective that like I just got to think about what I wanted when I was in high school, and
mm,
that's going to generally make money. Right. So you got to
that's
have that
true.
perspective. The other perspective is that, and I know we go back and forth, Mike, about this, that yes, it's a hobby, but reselling's a lifestyle.
Yep.
Let me give you an example. So I'll never forget 2 years ago when was it? When did what was that game you guys would always play on your phone?
Clash of Clans?
Clash of Clans. So, were you a big Clash of Clans guy?
I wasn't. I got into, Clash Royale, which was an offshoot of that.
Okay.
I played my fair share of games, but that wasn't one that I was addicted to.
So I remember like, and I get it. Like now, if you're like a grown man and you play video games, it's all good. Right. And I do too. So I'm not dissing anybody that does. I just remember like, 15 years ago, that would be a stigma.
Mm,
Right. Kind of like being an entrepreneur 15 years ago, man, you were unemployed. Right. I
yep.
mean, right. Things change. But I remember seeing all these people, grown men playing Clash of Clans. I'll never forget. Maybe I shouldn't share this story. But when I was in administration, I won't say what position this person held, but it was a pretty important position. And every time I walked by this guy's office, I always saw him. He'd be in front of his computer and he'd be playing Clash of Clans. You know who I'm talking about, right?
I don't.
Okay. And maybe it's best. And he'd always, like, as soon as somebody showed up, he would slyly, like, slide his phone under papers. Dude, all the time this guy was playing Clash of Clans. Okay. And I remember, like, I'd go to things and people are doing Clash of Clans. I'm like, you know what? You can do your Clash of Clans. I'm going to do eBay right now.
Mm,
So I'd be busy listing. I'd be busy, sending messages. I'd take offers. And to me, it was like, my perspective is going to be, hey, you can have your fun and games, but I'm going to make money.
yep. No, that's great stuff. And it is a terrible ROI, but one of our other friends who I knew was really into Clash of Clans there at the school,
Oh,
another
yeah. I
faculty
know where you're
member,
going.
ended up selling his Clash of Clans account on eBay for a significant amount of money. So
He could have gotten more. I
he
think he could have
cashed
sold it
in.
for a couple thousand.
Ooh, so if you do it right, you can even make money
And you
on
can't, by the way,
eBay.
you can't sell like those accounts. You can sell a paper clip, and you get the account for free.
Yeah, or like a Post-it note with like the account information on it. So yellow Post-it note.
That's how he sold it.
Yeah.
I think it was a Post-it or a paperclip. Like he listed it as one or the other, and then it was the account was free.
Yeah, I mean, I knew people. We're going a little bit off topic here, but I knew people who I used to play like World of Warcraft. When I was in high school and just out of high school. Man, that game will consume your life. Like that is another life right there. And I knew people who would farm, and that's how they made money in high school. Is they would play for hours and hours and hours, and then they'd sell the stuff they got on eBay or on
Really?
forums to other people. And then people in other countries ended up like taking that market over because they were able to do it at, you know, they'd play longer and would take less money. Um, and it was its own economic system, and people, yeah, would just play this game. And when I worked in corporate America, one of my colleagues that worked with me, worked the desk over from me, and when we weren't busy, he was playing. It was a RuneScape, so it was like an even cheesier RPG game. And yeah, that's what he would do. He'd say like, "Yeah, I can
So
make
Harry
like."
Potter, board games, World of
Oh, I'm a
Warcraft,
nerd.
Dungeons and Dragons,
Absolutely. So,
Magic.
but he would be like, "Yeah, I make like $2 an hour
You
doing
understand,
this."
like that's the thing now, right?
Being a nerd?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna sound super
Is
hipster when
that
I
wrong?
say,
I feel bad that you even called it being a nerd.
no, I think I'm a nerd and I'm proud. I'm allowed to say nerd because I'm a nerd.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but yeah, it's funny because he'd make comments like, "Yeah, I make like $2 an hour," and I would say things like, "How can you like that's not economically feasible?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I'm just sitting at the desk not working anyway, so I might
Oh
as
my
well."
goodness. So crazy. All right. Well, speaking of that, the other perspective I want to talk about is you got to think of this as a business,
Mm,
right? I can't stress that enough. And let me share with you. I'll just be real here. Like, so I have somebody that helps prepare, my taxes and so on. And man, like, had she not been clear with me, like, you need this and this, like the simple thing, like tracking. Are you tracking mileage?
not as well as I should be.
Okay, but that's what I mean. Like, for the government, I think it's like 53 cents a mile
Yep.
that you get back in your taxes, right? And you got to have that perspective. Even if you're doing it as a hobby, you got to treat it like a business,
Mm,
right? Because in the end, it's going to catch up to you, right? So I'll never forget the horrible experience I had last year where, I was still in this hobby mindset,
mm,
right? So I didn't track my miles. I had some receipts. I didn't have some receipts. And, the one saving grace I had was that I linked up my cards that I use for reselling to my GoDaddy account.
mm,
So what I was able to do was I was able to track all my expenses, and then the mileage I had already, kind of put down, I was able to what do you cross check or whatever it is
right.
with the places I went to. Right? All I had to do is go GPS on it, and I was able to go, okay, that's accurate. Right? But that took I can't even tell you how many hours and days.
Mm.
The frustration I felt had I just treated it like a business and had done that from the very beginning.
And I better go back and start checking my
I'm
miles.
sorry. See, I'm telling
Yeah.
you, this is organic. Like
Perseverance.
this was not planned.
I'm gonna need some serious perseverance to get through this next few weeks as I go back through and do my mileage.
But what a better time than doing it now, though. You think about if you went all Q4 without doing
That's
mileage,
true.
right? Then you're in a mess.
What about
So,
like well, that was one thing, like, again, a little off topic, but what do you do for, like, when you purchase stuff at garage sales? Like, how do you
ah,
prove the prices that you pay for that?
okay, again, disclaimer, we are not tax professionals. This is not any kind of advice. This is just what we
This is
do.
not legally binding.
No. Okay.
No, this is legally binding that it's not legal advice.
So I've seen two different ways. If you ever watch Bonafide Hustler on YouTube, you know those notebooks that you could do cash receipts.
Yep.
So he does when he goes to garage sales, he writes on the cash receipt like the address, what he bought, and for how much.
Wow. I have not been doing
Yeah,
that.
I can't do that. What I do is when I'm really on it is usually I have my map on my list of where I'm going,
Uh-huh.
and so it's already all the info is on there. All I do is real quick after I buy stuff, I just I just write down how much I spent, whatever keywords that will remind me, and I take care of it later. That makes sense?
It does. Oh, man. This is gonna be terrible as I
No,
prepare for my
no,
taxes.
it's not. But again,
Oh.
this is and I don't want to do a tax. I have people asking us to do tax this episode.
Mm.
I don't know if I want to go down that road. But I would say,
Be best practice episode.
yeah, best practices, right? Kind of like habits of a reseller.
Yeah,
Maybe we do need a part two.
maybe. I think that's a
Maybe.
good
I don't
idea.
know. But, hey, while we're still talking about this, if you have any habits of reseller you want to share with us, always feel free to DM us, right? We're Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram. We are Pure Hustle Podcast on Facebook. We're Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. Leave us a voicemail if you have any suggestions, 619-738-1170. Shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And maybe if you want to watch some of our video here, leave a comment, subscribe on YouTube. Go for it and hit that like button.
Yeah, and when you let us know what your habits are, they don't even have to start with a P.
That is true. That is true. So again, let's go back to, so treat it as a business. Like, what have you been doing with the money that you made reselling?
Well, I mean, it all goes to PayPal, and then every so often we pull the money out of PayPal, put it into our bank, and then just spend it on more inventory.
Okay, so you're using it as capital, right? You're
Right.
treating it as a business.
Yep.
Like, you're not making money and going, hey, we're gonna go to the theme park today.
Yep. No. I mean, there's
Or
been
you're
a
gonna go buy some World of Warcraft stuff.
yeah. Well, I luckily don't play that game anymore. But yeah, there's definitely been times where we've treated ourselves, but for the most part, money goes back into capital. You do have to pay yourself. If it's a business, you're an employee, you're the sole proprietor of your company. You get to write yourself a check every once in a while. But yeah, so I do treat it like a business for sure.
That's huge, right? Because bookkeeping, right? If you treat it as a business, bookkeeping will be a priority for you, right? So if you're new to reselling and things are really scaling up, like, now is the time. Like, remember my fiasco with inventory,
Mm,
right? I wasn't treating it like a business. It was kind of like, oh, something sell, I'm gonna go find it, right? And all the time I was losing, right? That was time that was being taken away from my business,
mm.
right? So I took the time to invest, get a helper, got it all organized, and now that time I'm able to use more effectively,
I
right? So
like it.
you got to treat it like a business. Okay, so hey, let's recap some of these. So first of all, patience, right? You got to be willing to work for a while until you get those results. You okay with that one?
I think that's great.
You're just ready for me to just list these all out?
Well, yeah. Okay, we're gonna talk about each one again.
No, we're not gonna.
Patience.
Patience, patience. Be willing to walk away, right? Sometimes you got to walk away.
Yeah, don't buy that stuff if it's not in the right price range. If you've done your research, you know what it goes for, you know what you should buy it for to get the right ROI.
And be patient about selling, right? If you know the value, don't go for that easy dollar. Now, I would say don't fight for every dollar, but we'll talk about that in another
Mm,
episode. Okay. And then perseverance, right? It's an extra 1% that's going to take you to the next level, right? Making that dedication, right? Getting up at 4 in the morning, like Mike. 4 in the morning, really, every day.
4 AM.
Man, that's beast mode.
You got to,
I
man.
get up at 4 a.m. because, like, something loud happened or my son woke me up. Like, I just, oh man, 4 in the morning. Okay. Hey, it's going to be those extra nights, right?
Yep,
It's going to be that dedication that will take you to the next level. So don't be willing to be complacent,
yep.
right?
Complacency is the enemy of success slash excellence slash all the good stuff.
Okay, so if you're at those garage sales, keep persevering until you find something, right? Don't settle for less. If you're at thrift stores, don't settle for less. If you're doing RA, right, keep persevering, right? Keep doing that research. And there's more I wanted to add to that, but I think we're gonna have to do it another time.
Part 2 coming
Part two,
soon.
yeah. And then perspective, right? Think about, this is a long-term game, right? But like you said, didn't you say something about make it short and long?
Yeah, yeah, you've gotta have the long-term goal where you wanna get, and you have to have realistic expectations and realistic steps that you can get there, but you can't think forever because 'cause you'll get stuck, right? Like, if you think of, I've heard several people say this, I know Will Smith has a whole speech on this, but, like, if you think of, um this is where you wanna be and you're so far away from that now, don't think about all it's gonna take to get there. Think about what's the next step you can take. Because if you take the next step and the next step and the next step, and every day you're taking even if it's like a little if you move like a micro inch closer to your goal every single day, before long that mountain is climbed.
Yep. So that part of that is having the perspective that it's a lifestyle, right? That it's even if you're doing hobby, like, you always gotta make it part of your life,
Yep.
right? And in the
And every hobby is, right? Like when you have a hobby, it does become part of your life.
right, but even the simple things like, hey, on the way home from work, I'm gonna stop at the thrift store,
Yep.
right? Or I'm gonna make sure that I end up while people are doing whatever Candy Crush, whatever on their phones. I'm gonna take out my phone and I'm gonna do work,
Yep.
right? I'm gonna hustle. And then last of all, treat it like business. And I think we need to make that part of our part 2 episode.
Yeah.
Should we? Maybe we'll do a part 2 like way down the road.
Yeah.
I think we need to have more lighthearted episode. You
Yeah.
good with
A
that?
little more playful.
More play. Oh yeah, that's the other one we forgot. Be playful. Remember, this is fun. Like this is the treasure hunt of the 21st century.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get to go look for pirate treasure, but we get to look for other people's treasure.
There you go.
Right? Like
Their bounty.
yeah.
Their booty.
Oh man, Orlando, you're making this weird.
Hey, I'm using the proper terminology.
Sure.
Okay. So hey, if you haven't treated like this like a business, do it. Remember, your time is valuable, right? Your bookkeeping, what you're buying, what you're doing with your capital, right? Reinvest. It's a business. All right, with all that being said, hey, make sure you're following us on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. Share our podcast.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. Hit those share buttons. Tag us on posts. We are Pure Hustle Podcast. Make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling.
Peace.